Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is Alicia of Explicit Travel. This video will cover my experience traveling to Puerto Rico during the pandemic. This is discoverpuertorico.com. This website will give you information on visitor health information and the safety guidelines. All visitors must complete a travel declaration form. All visitors must have a negative molecular COVID-19 test taken no more than 72 hours before arrival into Puerto Rico. A 14-day quarantine is required for anyone who does not present a negative molecular COVID-19 test. Currently, the island-wide restrictions include a curfew from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. During my visit, the curfew was 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. If you are traveling now with this extended curfew, you're in luck. However, I was still able to get a lot done during my visit with the 9 p.m. curfew. The key will be to start your day a little earlier than you normally would on a vacation. During my 5-day stay, I did try to be respectful of all the restrictions set in place. I only made it back to my hotel room late after curfew one time during my 5-day stay. There were no officers or anyone trying to usher you to get back to your room after 9. But most bars, restaurants will be closed. The only thing that I was able to find open after 9 p.m. was the gas station, and then I headed back to my room. There were still some restaurants that was able to deliver after the 9 p.m. curfew, but you would not be able to walk into a restaurant to order food. The travel declaration form will ask about your demographic information and also about information of where you are coming from. It's best to have your flight number, your airline number, because these are all things that they will ask on a travel declaration form. It is also best to have an electronic copy of your negative COVID-19 molecular test. You will upload your test results into this system, and then you will be given a form which has a QR code that will allow you access into Puerto Rico when you arrive. There's airport staff there who will not allow you to leave the airport without scanning that QR code. Please be careful when calculating the 72 hours before your arrival. Be sure that the date that you take your test is actually no more than 72 hours before your arrival. A new question not included in the travel declaration form when I fill this form out is if you have a COVID-19 vaccine. I'm not sure what will happen if you mark yes or no to this question. In New York City, there are a variety of New York City health and hospital locations that provide rapid molecular COVID-19 tests. I will link testing locations down below. It is important to remember that the requirement is a molecular test and not an antigen test. If you're not sure what type of test the testing location is going to give you, please ask. Once I arrived to the island, restaurants were operating at 30% capacity and pools were operating at 50% capacity. I had no issue with getting a table fairly quickly. With the 30% capacity, a wait for a table was no more than half an hour. The COVID-19 restrictions set in place in Puerto Rico made me feel very safe. All locations required wearing a mask as well as temperature checks to gain entry. Even my hotel, each time we arrived, we had to get a temperature check. Hand sanitizer stations were everywhere all over the island. Restaurants and pools were all socially distant due to the capacity restrictions. The Puerto Rican Health Department texted daily to ask about any symptoms of COVID-19. You are to answer yes or no. And then they will thank you for your response. I got this text message every day during my trip in Puerto Rico. Currently, the CDC requires all international travelers entering the U.S. to have a negative COVID-19 test. Because Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, a negative COVID-19 test will not be required to return to your home city. In New York City, there is an option to test out of the mandatory 10-day quarantine. In order to be eligible to test out of the quarantine, you must obtain a test within 3 days of departure prior to your arrival in New York City. Before I left Puerto Rico, I decided it was a wise decision to get tested before my departure. I took my COVID-19 test at the local Walgreens. An appointment is required, and you must check back several days prior to your arrival to be sure you can secure an appointment. The COVID-19 test was a drive-through appointment, and you will self-swab your own sample to give to the pharmacist. My results were ready 2 days after I got back to New York. I'm going to cover this CleanSmart spray because I never travel without it during the pandemic. It is EPA approved to kill COVID-19 on all surfaces. I use this spray to disinfect the plane seat, the tray table, and the armrest. When I'm sitting in a window seat, which is usually more often than not, I always clean the window as well. I brought it with me to all restaurants. I cleaned off the table and the chairs. When I arrived at my hotel, I went behind and I cleaned every surface. It comes in a travel size spray. I highly recommend that you order this spray for your trip. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe.